How's everybody doing? Everybody, I guess this is on. I think we're good to go. All righty. Apologize for the delay. We had a little technical difficulty that we took care of. So we don't have a youngster tonight, so I'll call the meeting to order. All righty, so we will call the roll.
Matthews.
Here.
Ingalls.
Here.
Flood.
Here.
Bolt.
Here.
Rutherford.
Here.
Seymour.
Here.
Salter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I think Daniel's going to do invocation for us.
Let's pray. Lord, we love you. We thank you for the opportunity to come together and consider the business of our city. Lord, we are thankful for all the wonderful residents who reside here. We pray your blessing on them. Lord, give us wisdom tonight as we consider important items. Help us to ask the right questions and arrive with your wisdom and guidance at the correct answers. Thank you for your son, Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, sir. Do flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up, like always, is citizens' participation. 3 minutes per person, 12 minutes per topic. Joe will be our timekeeper. You may hear some answers at the end in commissioners' comments, so stick around, and tonight's probably going to be a minute or two. We only have one person signed up tonight, so Rick Young, you are up. Pressure's on since you're the only one. How are you tonight?
I'm just fine. How is everybody?
Doing great.
It's always a pleasure to come before this body, this council, for the times that we're living in. I have 3 things that I want to just share. First off, I want to stand in support of Love Your Block, Shekiah Morris, Bailey Cox, and all the volunteers that have been helping and assisting with that program. Let me just say this, and I've been around those guys and what they've been doing from the start. And Shawnee is involved in truly a tectonic paradigm shift, and everybody in this room tonight are a part of that, whether you know it or not. But they are truly changing hearts and minds and attitudes with their work, and in an area that's desperately needed. Their attitudes are helping change the minds of some citizens about what their participation is in the city is, and if it matters, and it does matter. Every citizen matters. We were discussing about our stakeholders, and one of the things that we're getting ready to do is put the power back into the hands of the true stakeholders, and that's the citizens, and I appreciate that. So dovetailing that into supporting the charter change of 2022, and I appreciate all of those that have made the commitment to do that. If I want to just say this, I will be one individual that helps you hold to that promise, because it's not unto me, it's unto the citizens of the city of Shawnee. I do appreciate that. So as we move forward, this body has a lot to do with that progression. Also, I want to thank those that are embracing the tectonic shift. Now, some people ask me, what in the devil are you talking about? Well, I'm a citizen that's been here for some time and been back and moved back and seen a little bit of everything. So when you talk to some of the what we call G's, and I'd like to say, Mark, welcome back. We missed you last week. We had a ball.
It sounded like it.
Yes, sir. So welcome back. So I want to just thank those that are part of this growth that's happening. And I'm going to just say this. For those of you that don't think you're part of it, you are. And we're looking forward to working with everybody that wants to see Shawnee America become that city that she's destined to become in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, that we might leave it a better place than what we found it. So some of you guys, I know you're getting ready to step out, but I know you'll be involved, and we appreciate your contribution to the city. And if nobody tells you that, I want to tell you that to your face. Thank you, buddy.
All right, thank you, sir. Before we go any further, one other thing I want to point out is all the food back there that staff has brought, that is for you guys to eat up, so get after it. All righty, item 2, consider approval of consent agenda. Anybody got anything you want to pull from the consent agenda? If not, we'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve item 2.
Thank you so much.
I'll second.
Daniel and Travis. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 2. We'll call the question. Motion. Motion passes 6 in favor and 1 abstention. Alrighty, item 3, presentation of animal control to present Pet of the Week, and we've got a really big one out there in the lobby coming in. I don't know what it is, but the box is only about that big. There we go. Bless you.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Wendy, and this is Shelby, and this is Zara. She's our pet of the week. She's a very scared little girl. She's only about 7 or 8 weeks old, and obviously she's available for adoption. She came in on a bag at Lowe's, so she's kind of traveled a little bit. A little worldly, I guess you could say, for a kitten her age. But in-house, we have, of course, our one rooster. Our rooster Cogburn is his name. We have 6 cats and 50 dogs. We've done 3 adoptions and 4 reclaims. And our Empty the Shelter Adopt-a-thon is still going on if anybody wants to go ahead and come on down and look at them. 90% of our animals are already spayed and neutered. The puppies have their first set of puppy shots, so they are ready to go.
So what would it cost to adopt the big ferocious
This one
cat?
here, if you live in the city, would only be $25.
Very cool. All righty.
Because unfortunately, she's not quite ready to be spayed
Right.
yet.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 4 is swearing in of Lindsay McNabb Fox as city treasurer. Very cool.
Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Lindsay McNabb Fox,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
of the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma,
and the Constitution of the State of Oklahoma,
and that I will not
and that I will not,
knowingly receive directly or indirectly,
that I will knowingly receive or indirectly,
knowingly receive directly or indirectly,
directly or indirectly,
any money or other valuable thing
any money or any valuable thing
for the performance or non-performance
for the performance or non-performance
of any act or duty
of any act or duty
pertaining to my office,
pertaining to my office,
other than the compensation
other than the compensation
allowed by law.
allowed by law.
I further swear that I will
I further swear that I will
faithfully discharge my duties
faithfully discharge my duties
as city treasurer
as city treasurer
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Welcome aboard.
Thank
Very
you.
cool. Okay, very cool. Let's see, item 5, consideration of an ordinance of the city of Shawnee, Oklahoma, amending certain portions of Chapter 8, Article 8, medical marijuana to comport with recent changes to state law, and also providing for repealer, codification, and severability. Mr. Barkheimer, will you get up there fast? I
Yeah.
can see you.
Yeah, appreciate
How
it,
are
Mr.
you,
Mayor.
sir?
So as you said, and as I said in the memo, this is really a housekeeping item to stay up to date and compliant with the latest state bill. It changes a couple of definitions and changes the way that we calculate our distances between the marijuana facilities and public schools and private schools. And there's really no meaningful change to our current operation. So staff does recommend approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got any questions? I mean, pretty clear cut.
Straightforward.
Go ahead, Mark, go ahead.
That's it. I'm good.
Yep, so just getting us in line with state law. Anyone like to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion.
Is that you, Travis? Yep.
I'll second.
Travis and Darren. All right, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, amending certain portions of Chapter 8, Article 8, medical marijuana, to comport with recent changes to state law, and also providing for repealer, codification, and severability.
Thank you, sir. All right, we have motion and a second to approve item 5. We'll call the question. And motion passes 7-0. Item 6, public hearing and consideration of an ordinance to rezone property located on approximately 8.79 acres north of West MacArthur Street and east of Acme Road from R3 Multifamily Residential District and C2 Suburban Office Commercial District to a PUD Planned Unit Development, case number PUD 01-22, applicant J. Bentley Investments LLC, represented by Grubbs Consulting LLC, deferred from July 5, 2022 City Commission meeting. And Mr. Harkins, how are you tonight?
I'm good, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Mayor and Commissioners, Ryan Harkins, Community Development Director. This is a rezoning request to take 2 tracks into a PUD that would rezone from the current R3 and R2 to a C2 R2 combination. The PUD was delayed a number of times just to get details worked out and finalized with the applicant. Staff has reviewed the item. With all of the changes, we feel confident this is ready to go forward. The Planning Commission recommended this item on a 5-0 vote to you. Staff's recommendation is concurrent as well.
Very good. Anybody got questions for Ryan while we're... Okay, if not, I guess we can open the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor? If so, come on up. How are you, sir?
Good. Mark Grubbs, 1800 South Sarah Road, Yukon, Oklahoma, on behalf of the application. Like staff mentioned, this is a duplex office, PUD. Current zoning is multifamily, so it would drastically reduce the allowed density. All of the variances within the PUD are based on the shape and uniqueness of the property and the access, that it only has one access point. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, anybody got questions?
The offices, there's 2 new offices
Right.
that were built at that corner.
Right.
The offices that are in this PUD would represent it, and the housing addition would tie into that overall theme.
Do you have a question?
Well, I mean, because we're using two units per lot, isn't that how the layout is?
Yes, sir.
And then,
So there's 20 lots. There would be,
I guess, which we're parking off the street, how we are doing that.
there's garages and adequate parking space in the driveway as well.
No curbs,
Yes, there are rollover curbs.
so a rollover curb.
Why did we opt for rollover instead of regular?
So what happens when you end up putting in the street and a barrier curb is we end up going and cutting out probably 80% of the curb that was installed. If we do the rollover curb, that alleviates the need to cut out all that curbing. And it still handles the stormwater appropriately.
Which, you know, the finished deal kind of looks like a apartment complex instead of a housing addition.
Apartment complexes look more of like a parking lot, I would, with a
That's
barrier
what we
curb.
can't see here on this, is just the lot layout.
I actually have a handout
Do
if
you?
you, I mean, that will
absolutely.
represent, kind of give you an idea and also of the product, if I may.
Sure, absolutely.
I can pass them down if you want me to.
Just doesn't leave much room for grass.
So what you'll see is on the first sheet is a rendering, kind of a concept of what the overall product would look like. The second sheet will give you an idea of what each structure would look like. And the third and fourth sheets are, if you haven't been to that intersection, showing the current offices that are built there and what those offices would look like in front of on the front of the PUD.
Which back to the, the lots back in there, you got a 16-foot garage door, so 32 foot, probably 6 foot. So you got 50 foot of house, which means you're only gonna be, you show a lot of green area over beside that, you're not gonna have that.
There's, so there's 10 foot between each structure, and then you would obviously be a little bit more in the front yards because of, each structure is 50 foot, and you're correct on the, garage.
And which Ryan probably answered, what do we generally do on this style? I mean, I know we don't generally build duplexes on 60-foot width lots.
Well, with the idea with it being a PUD, you're flexing the typical standards
I know,
to accommodate
but
that.
what do we normally do?
Typically, an R1 is a 7,500 square foot lot. R2 gets a little bit bigger, and then R3 gets bigger from that. So you're talking progressively higher lot sizes with each zoning district, which is a typical pyramid type of zoning.
My only question, and just to kind of just thinking about, I have teenage drivers, and sometimes they don't realize how quickly they can get up to a speed, and if they're coming out of that cul-de-sac and heading towards a stop sign, and have to drive right through the middle of multiple car parking before they hit said stop sign. Would there be an option to possibly put some either speed bumps or a stop sign right there by the exit of the road from the residential addition into the office spaces? Just thinking about that.
I think what makes the most sense, stop signs back to back like that probably wouldn't make the best, but the speed table or a speed bump would be more effective.
Okay.
And he's agreeable to that.
Yeah. Okay.
And just to remind the mayor and commission, this is currently R3, which allows for, I believe, 3 units for the first 10,000 feet and an additional unit for each 2,000 square feet, which puts us well over the 150 range for 8 acres. So it's a substantial, why I mention that, it's a substantial reduction in density allowance.
Sure. Good. Got anything else, Marcus? Anybody got any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else like to speak in favor? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to anyone like to speak in opposition.
I don't necessarily know that I'm in opposition so much as just have a question. At the Planning Commission, it was stated that sidewalks were waived for them. Yet if you guys remember when you voted on the fellas over on 39th Street, just east of Harrison, when they're building that neighborhood, we jumped all over them to rebuild the road, redo sidewalks, redo curbs and everything. But I sat here and listened to that they got sidewalks waived, so I'd like that answered before I could be on board. Otherwise, it doesn't sound that bad. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ryan, is there anything you could address?
39th Street isn't a street, it's a driveway.
At Planning Commission, the recommendation was without sidewalks simply because one of the nature of the development and the way it laid out, it was a cul-de-sac that was short, had a small number of lots. certainly is something that can be added in if the commission feels like it should be. Staff and planning commission at the planning commission hearing felt in this case it was acceptable to forego the inclusion of sidewalk at this time, simply because smaller cul-de-sac, very contained development.
As it relates to the question that was asked, this might can be for you or for Seth, have we ever accepted 39th? 39th is still a private drive, correct? Or portion?
So the final plat is actually later in the agenda tonight for that one, but
But I
then.
mean, as it pertains to the question.
Right, and then we're hoping that they'll get their punch list and we'll be able to accept the public infrastructure in the next meeting, but it's gonna be close here in the next month or two when we'll be accepting their public infrastructure.
Gotcha.
And I would also just clarify that we may be doing sidewalk on this one exactly like we did on 39th along MacArthur. The sidewalk was up the cul-de-sac, not along the arterial, just FYI.
Okay, very good, thank you. Yes,
That
sir.
was, well, that was my question.
Yeah.
According to the drawings,
Right,
it is
according
down,
to the drawing.
it is down, it's required down MacArthur.
Correct, yeah. And that would be handled in the building permit phase, not in the rezoning phase, so.
Correct, okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Water retention, I guess, is in this common area? Okay.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. What further discussion do we want to have on this? Any other questions, or? If not, we'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve the rezone.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Daniel and Travis. It looks like Joe's got a whole bunch to read.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance concerning the zoning classification of the following described property located within the corporate limits of the city of Shawnee, Pottawatomie County, Oklahoma, to wit, a tract of land lying in the southwest quarter of Section 2, Township 10 North, Range 3 east of the Indian Meridian, Pottawatomie County, Oklahoma, more particularly described as follows. Belmont Park Addition Phase 2, a tract of land lying in the southwest quarter of Section 2, Township 10 North, Range 3 east of the Indian Meridian, Pottawatomie County, Oklahoma, more particularly described as follows. Commencing at the southwest corner of said southwest quarter, thence north 0 degrees, 34 minutes, 33 seconds west along the west line of said southwest quarter, a distance of 300 feet to the point of beginning, thence continuing north 0 degrees, 34 minutes, 33 seconds west along said west line, a distance of 188.36 feet to the southwest corner of Belmont Park Addition. An addition to the city of Shawnee, Pottawatomie County, Oklahoma, according to the unrecorded plat thereof. Thence along the south and east lines of said addition for the following 3 courses. 1. North 89 degrees, 22 minutes, 51 seconds east, a distance of 103.10 feet. 2. North 26 degrees, 9 minutes, 10 seconds east, a distance of 348.85 feet. And 3. North 0 degrees, 34 minutes, 33 seconds west, a distance of 309.26 feet to the northeast corner of said addition. Thence north 89 degrees, 19 minutes, 11 seconds east, parallel with the south line of said southwest quarter, a distance of 290 feet. Then south 0 degrees, 34 minutes, 33 seconds east, parallel with the west line of said southwest quarter, a distance of 1,108.80 feet, to a point on the south line of said southwest quarter. Then south 89 degrees, 19 minutes, 11 seconds west along said south line, a distance of 250 feet. Thence north 0 degrees, 34 minutes, 33 seconds west, parallel with the west line of said southwest quarter, a distance of 300 feet. Then south 89 degrees, 19 minutes, 11 seconds west, parallel with the south line of said southwest quarter, a distance of 300 feet to the point of beginning. Said tract of land containing 382,923 square feet, or 8.7907 acres, more or less. The basis of bearing for the above described tract of land is the west line of said southwest quarter, having a platted bearing of north 0 degrees, 34 minutes, 33 seconds west from zoning classification R3 multifamily residential district and C2 Suburban Office Commercial District to a PUD Planned Unit Development, amending the official zoning map of the City of Shawnee accordingly.
Thank you, sir. Let you catch your breath. All righty, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 6. We'll call the question. And motion passes 7-0. Item 7, consideration of preliminary plat for Belmont Park 2 on approximately 8.79 acres north of West MacArthur Street and east of Acme Road, case number PPL 02-22, applicant J. Bentley Investments LLC, represented by Grubbs Consulting LLC. And Mr. Harkins is back up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is the accompanying preliminary plat for the PUD you just approved. It indicates 22 lots on the 8.79 acres. The plat has been redesigned and done to match the PUD that you just approved. With that in mind, staff's recommendation to Planning Commission was to approve. Planning Commission's and staff's recommendation to you is approval. Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval to you. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Any questions for Ryan? If not, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 7. We'll call the question. Motion passes 7-0. Item 8, consideration of preliminary plat for Shawnee Twin Lakes, Lake Number 1 on approximately 2,198 acres, case number PPL 03-22, applicant City of Shawnee. And Ryan's up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. This is a preliminary plat request on behalf of the city to file a preliminary plat for Lake Number 1 out of the Twin Lakes. Right now, what we have are a number of tracks that would commonly be described in a legal description by meets and bounds. This takes those tracks and puts them under one common legal description. So this, in many ways, is a housekeeping item at this point in time.
Very good. Any questions for Ryan? If not,
Just to reiterate, the purpose is just to establish clear legal boundaries for us to move forward.
That is correct. It creates one common boundary, one common legal description for Lake Number 1, does nothing else.
right. Very good. No other question? We'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 8. We will call the question. Motion passes 7-0. Item 9, consideration of final plat for Shawnee Twin Lakes, Lake Number 1 on approximately 2,198 acres, case number FPL 03-22, applicant City of Shawnee. Mr. Harkins up. I bet we're just piggybacking on what we just did.
It is. So again, this is the accompanying final plat for Lake Number 1. Again, housekeeping, more of a separate legal tracks, legal descriptions under one legal description and one common boundary. Staff recommended approval to Planning Commission. Their recommendation is on a vote of 5-0 to approve this item, concurrent with staff's.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? If not, we'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Thank you, ma'am. All righty, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 9. We'll call the question. Motion passes 7-0. Item 10, consideration of final plat for Maple Grove addition on approximately 13.49 acres north of East 39th Street and approximately 500 feet east of North Harrison Avenue, case number FPL 04-22, applicant 39th Street Project LLC. Mr. Harkins, it is your night tonight.
So far, but others will be coming shortly. I can promise you that. So this is a request for a final plat for 59 lots over just under 13 and a half acres, excuse me. There's a 1.18 acre common area that's noted in the staff report as well. This item went to Planning Commission at their August 3rd meeting. The recommendation by staff was approval. Planning Commission voted on a 5-0 affirmative vote to recommend approval to you, concurrent with staff's recommendation as well. With that, I'd be happy to answer questions.
Okay, any questions?
No questions. I just want to know, I misspoke earlier. I meant 42nd when I said 39th.
Yeah.
And I confused the question.
That's
so
all right.
My
That's all right.
mistake. I knew we had 39th coming and I confused it, so my mistake.
No
No
problem.
questions, anyone got a motion?
Move to approve item 10.
Thank you, sir.
No, second.
Thank you very much, Daniel and Travis. All righty, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 10. We'll call the question. And motion passes 7-0. Item 11, consideration of a budget amendment for fiscal year 2022, 2023 for Fund 706 gifts and contributions to fund expenditures for the Fire Clown program using prior year donation. And Jacob's up. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Mayor Commissioners, as you said, this is just a budget amendment to fund the Fire Clown program for our fire department from the Gifts and Contributions Fund. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Anyone got questions? Would like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you,
Item
sir.
11.
I heard a motion. Was there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'd heard something, but I wasn't sure. All righty, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 11. We'll call the question. Seven zero. All righty. It is approved. Item 12, consider bids for Kickapoo Street sidewalk improvements. We'll do the award. Mr. Barkheimer.
Mr. Mayor, you may recall from August 1st meeting, we had 4 bids. The low bid was for $792,679.80 by EMC Services. Since then, staff has reviewed the bids. We're familiar with the low bidder there who did our independent sidewalk project as well, so they worked with us here recently. And at this time, staff does recommend awarding the contracts to EMC Services, and that would be for the base bid amount. Again, $792,679.80. And with that, I'd be open to any questions.
Any questions?
So when would this project start?
You'd give us 60 days for contracts and notice to proceed, that kind of thing, and it'd be here over the next couple of months, hopefully shorter than 60 days. But yeah,
Weather permitting?
weather permitting, yeah, right. You'd be
Yeah.
getting going in October probably.
Do you know?
Will you remind us how far this sidewalk goes?
Yeah, it would make continuous sidewalk on both sides of the street from I-40 to MacArthur? No, 45th, MacArthur, yes, sorry. I had to think about it in my head. Yeah, MacArthur Street. It'd be continuous sidewalk on both sides, and then we have existing continuous sidewalk from MacArthur to Spur.
Mm-hmm.
And then the widening project would take continuous
Right.
sidewalk on both sides from
Although-
Spur to Farrell.
Farrell.
So,
This is really
Awesome.
good that we're getting this
Yeah, big
going.
time.
Number of families that use the
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 bulk of the
hill
project
to
will
walk
be between
between the
45th and MacArthur.
Mhm.
Because most of the sidewalk from 45th to I-40 is already in place, and it'll just be infill.
Yep. Do you know how long that'll take?
We have 180 days in the
Okay.
contract, so it's, yeah.
Late spring,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah,
Yeah.
depending on weather and all that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good.
It's exciting to see it coming 200 grand under the estimate.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah,
work that magic on
absolutely.
other bids?
Yeah. Very good. All righty, any other questions? Anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve that.
I'll second.
Travis and Cammy. All right, motion and a second for approval of item 12. We will call the question. And motion passes 7-0. Exciting project. Item 13, consideration of agreement with Smith Roberts Baldishweiler LLC, SRB, for owner's representative inspection services for Kickapoo Street Sidewalk Improvement Project. And Seth, you're there again.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So as you just read, this is for the owner's rep contract with SRB. And the only thing that I would state beyond what you guys already have in the memo is that SRB was also the owner's rep for Independence Street. So with MC being the low bid that you guys just awarded, we would literally be putting the whole construction team back together and trying to be just as efficient as we were on Independence on Kickapoo. So other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Their contract was for $83,025.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Thank you. Dr. Darren. All righty, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 13. We'll call the question. Motion passes 7-0. Item 14, acknowledge monthly sales tax and budget report. Jacob is up again. He's going to have good news, I hope.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Sales tax came in well for August. Year-to-date, we are 15% above projections, and year-to-date, we are 8% above our prior year actuals. As far as expenditures go, we are within budget, as we are just in August for this fiscal year. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions? Hard to question good news like that.
You said we were 8% above last year's
Mm-hmm.
overall. And
For actuals.
if I remember right,
Yeah.
we were right in the middle of some pretty good months this last time when we were going through this thing. And really, this is good news. It's continuing to not just hold steady, but continuing to increase in numbers that we feel like are sustainable, not something
I agree.
that jump really big and then us turn around and expect it to fall off. So
Yeah, last year was a
Very
good year.
yeah.
So. Other questions? All righty, thank you, sir. Keep bringing good news. All righty, item 15, administrator reports. Looks like first up is Santa Fe Depot and Ryan Harkins.
Okay, so we wanted to give you some additional information on some of the background research we've done regarding other communities and other depots and what has been done. So if you remember, the feedback that it was a takeaway from the visioning process was to, one, preserve the depot no matter what, and staff worked to make that consistent as a message that it wasn't about an either or, it was about how best to preserve it and use it, utilize it as a draw for the downtown, continue to use the building as a way to honor the history of the community, and then try and combine, based on the support that we saw in the visioning process, combine different uses. So with that said, some of the, if you remember, the preferred functions included a visitor center, museum, farmer's market, arts space, performing arts space, as well as restaurant. So with that said, we pulled up a few examples that we're going to show you. So the first one is Dodge City, Kansas. Most people think of this as Gunsmoke, Boot Hill. So we outlined on the aerial for everyone exactly where the depot complex was at. And this is a large complex. There are a number of, there are 2-3 buildings on this site. We did the arrow to kind of point out the heart of it. This is street level type of imagery that you see. So there is a mix of different uses within this depot complex: a restaurant, the Chamber, Main Street, for 3 of the examples, some museum space as well. The building is city-owned by the City of Dodge City, with space leased out to each of these entities. There is also a theater in this. I said this was a big complex. So they have plenty of room for this. But there's a theater within the complex as well. So part of the building is the office space, part of it is the theater, and then an additional building is the actual restaurant that's separate. But they're all in one complex. They did this in multiple renovation phases, I would add. I would also add they used a number of different funding sources. So transportation alternatives from the DOT, some historic preservation funds. They used a lot of community fundraising as well. I would emphasize with most of these examples, community fundraising was an element. So this is Norman. This is one that we talked about a lot in the visioning process. And so you can see and many people have been to this facility, but this gives you an idea on the aerial. This gives you street level and inside the building. This is another facility owned by the city, but it is leased out to a nonprofit that operates it. And there are multiple uses within this facility. There's a large park, sculpture complex. They use it for poetry readings on Sunday night, for music, for weddings, for arts and entertainment. They did a number of different funds for sources for renovations. They also utilize a number of different foundations for the ongoing operations and events that related to arts and culture. So this is a great example of how one facility has become organized and continues to be progressive in going after funds to continue doing operations. So this is Strong City, Kansas. This is a small city example, and I want to emphasize the word small. Strong City is under 1,000 in population. You see a little bit of it as you drive by on the highway between Emporia and Newton. I can speak from experience. I have driven by it many times and went, oh, it was right there. But this is a Santa Fe depot that the city owns. They renovated to go and put city offices in. And then part of the building is used for museum space as well. And then part of the building is used for a community event space. There was not a formal agreement between the city and the museum. It was just kind of a gentleman's handshake. But they did the restoration using a number of sources for funding, including the DOT Alternative Transportation Grant, a number of foundations in the state of Kansas, and a number of community fundraisers. And then private individuals stepped up around the region. Waynoka, community that many have been in. This is a complex along the tracks that has a museum, a gift shop, and a restaurant. Multiple structures, 2 to be exact. The museum takes part of the building, the restaurant takes the lower floor, and then the gift shop takes another part of the complex. But in this case, the Historic Society owns the building. The city sold it to them. And then they lease out the area that's the restaurant. But when we spoke with them, they indicated DOT Alternative Transportation Grant. They also used hotel motel tax money for some of the renovations, and then community groups stepped up and helped fund parts of the renovations. And this is a project, again, that happened in multiple phases. So some of the other activities that have been going on in terms of the research, we, at the end of last week, received an updated estimate, which we'll bring to you next month for the roof and the exterior. Staff is going through that just to review it internally before we start sharing that information. We continue to look at additional funding sources and how that could stack up to do the renovation work. But we're also looking at some other depots as well, and we'll bring a few more examples next month to you as well. And then there are additional discussions ongoing with Potawatomi County Historic Society about future lease and how that would be delineated. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Brian, I realize this is a complex issue, especially because it's a historic building too. Do you have an estimate on when we could expect to begin the restoration process? Or are we gonna need to wait till next? Like, I understand we needed to determine use, gather information.
So you'd like to ask, do we need to wait till next fiscal year?
No, I'm just asking realistically, when can we tell people that we'll get started?
Sure. I think if you give staff another month or two, we can have a pretty good idea, not only on a firm cost estimate, at least for the roof and the exterior. We can start to look at what funding sources to start to go after, as well as the design process. I think, and I might be speaking out of school and get in trouble for it, but
I put you on the spot, sorry.
that's okay. I don't feel a trapdoor under my feet. We're all right. But having said that, you probably, because of the historic nature of the building, the fact it's on the National Register, will want to pursue bringing on an architect that's well-versed in SHPO and National Register properties in order to do just that overall design guide, design work, so that we can make sure it meets the standards SHPO approves. That way, when we go out to bid to do work, it's ready to go and we don't have any hiccups. And that would help answer the questions about materials, if something needs to be replaced, things like that. That's why I would suggest that.
So correct me if I'm wrong and try to get you in some more trouble. If this follows the normal city project, we're gonna receive our estimates and what we think. You said you're gonna bring that to us next month. The next process would be to identify a firm and it'll go to design. And we would approve a contract with the firm for design. It'd go to design, then it would go to bid, and then.
Correct. Then we go to construction from there. In a perfect world, if everything lines up correctly, that's
Sure.
what we'd like to do.
So we follow the process and try to make it go as quickly as we can.
We will drive the cart as fast as we can, but because of the complexity, staff's
Sure.
going to make sure we hit
Right,
every
we wanna
detail
do it right.
correctly.
I just want to make sure the public understands the process so we can clearly point to where we are in the
Correct.
process. Like, it doesn't magically overnight go from visioning process to construction. There's a
No.
process we have to follow.
Correct.
So,
And we're happy to, if it would help, make sure next month we kind of outline some of the steps in that process.
that'd be great.
That'd be
Thank
good.
you.
Awesome.
Yeah, because I mean, I still have people question me like, we're not even gonna do this. I mean, there's no doubt we're moving forward with this, so.
I did see
just
on,
think it's good for people to hear that.
on a lot of them, they have the DOT transportation grants. I assume those are accessible to us as well.
It would be yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Nope, very good. I think you're next up, aren't you?
I am.
We've got another report on Love Your Block.
We wanted to give you a quick update on just the progress of the program. We originally started last fall, bringing on, selecting staff and accepting the grant. But within that, just a reminder that not only what the target area is, but what the key tasks are. Trying to create a healthy, safer, more vibrant city, trying to activate citizen engagement, particularly in the target area, but also bridge the gap in the inequities and the insecurities. If you remember, we also looked at trying to use this as a way to create a model to do neighborhood revitalization long-term in the community, which matched up well with Johns Hopkins' original intent of Love Your Block, because one of their tenets is they want this to be sustainable for any community they bring into the program. So they want you as the community to think of a way to keep doing this and make it go forward. It was part of the reason why we selected the target area of Dunbar. This is the south end of the community. This is a community that historically, in terms of economics and other factors, has been left behind in multiple ways. And because of that, the area was selected for the Love Your Block application as a way to help begin to alleviate conditions relating to blight and substandard conditions, as a means to alleviate poverty. So to give you an idea of who's been participating so far, we went into this once the entire team was in place with the idea that this had to be neighborhood-led and neighborhood-driven. We did not want to just start to do something and say, we're here to help, we're the government, because that typically, as we all know, makes people run the other way. This time around, we basically said, we want to partner with you, but we want you to lead. You tell us how this needs to work in order to best fit this neighborhood and benefit it. And they've been great and very supportive in that, and given us a lot of great ideas. Sometimes that means my staff gets a lot of text messages and does a lot of shuttle diplomacy, but they enjoy it. So as a collaborative partner, we've had 2 staff members, a fellow, Shekiah Morris, and a Vista volunteer, Bailey Kotz, both who are here tonight, along with other organizations that we've partnered with over the last few months to help do things. A few of them are listed here, and some of these were listed specifically because some of the initial groundwork they did to help build relationships, because this will only get done through building relationships and sustaining them. And these have been partners that have been valuable in doing that. So we've done a number of different activities. Obviously, neighborhood cleanup is one, and cleaning property is obviously essential in a blighted neighborhood. But also doing property clearance, neighborhood cleanup days, trash removal, tree removal, trying to look at building community gardens, and then the mini grant program. And the grant that you receive from Johns Hopkins includes funds for the mini grant program. So when we did that this year, that was not general fund dollars going to it. I want to emphasize that. That was funds from the Johns Hopkins grant. But the mini grant program offered a chance for 13 projects to be completed over the next few months. So we've done 3 work days for mini grant projects already. We'll be doing those every 2 to 3 weeks until the beginning of November. The mini grants range from $500 to $1,000. They deal with facade improvements, landscaping, painting, things like that. We're partnering with a number of organizations to help provide volunteer manpower, but also Lowe's has been very gracious to give a steep discount to help stretch dollars even farther. So here's an example. This is the first mini grant project we did. This was a very warm, blustery, hot day, and a group of volunteers from a church came together and helped. And you can see the before and after. Major difference. This is the second. Folks from Community Renewal, our staff, the mayor, Susan Morris, were all on site. And you can see a huge difference in how this property looks from before and after. This is the type of work at the street level that we're trying to achieve in order to help alleviate, through equity and through volunteerism, blight conditions in this area. So we wanted to give you also an idea of who's been participating. So this is a list of the volunteers who have signed up to help or who have helped, or organizations that have participated in this. And so I'm going to ask if those individuals or groups are here, if they would just stand up behind me. And I want we wanted to do that tonight to give the community an idea of how these relationships are coming together in order to make change in a positive way on a small scale that has a lot of big dividends in the long run. A lot of people will say that you can't do things like this. I would disagree. We can do a lot of things together to make changes happen and have a very significant impact. Just these first two houses I showed you had a lot of people drive by and go, wow, that's amazing. Shakaya keeps getting phone calls about, I want to apply now. She even sent me a text message last week about, this person wants to apply right now. We'll have to wait till next year. But these types of activities will be ongoing, as well as others through Love Your Block to help deal with conditions that impact blight and substandard and equity issues in this target area. So I'm thankful for the staff and I'm thankful for the volunteers. They've been amazing. There are additional dates coming up. So if you go to the Love Your Block website, anyone can look at those upcoming dates and sign up to volunteer. We have been approved by the municipal court administration as well. So if someone needs service hours as part of a diversion or sentence, they can get community service hours through Love Your Block as well, which is unique. So having said that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
Questions? I don't see any questions. It's been a great program. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. I know the folks, when I go down there and the ones that one that I was involved in and people I talk to, I mean, they are so thankful for what you're doing and man, you just, good job. Good job. Thank you so much.
I don't have necessarily a question, but I do have a comment that it's been amazing to see the work on these two projects, but there have been multiple other instances where the relationships that we're able to build have allowed us to do smaller things for families that really need it. I got a call one afternoon and was able to help a lady who had a rotten tree that was falling over in her backyard, and had it continued to fall, it would have ripped out her electric service and caused her thousands of dollars worth of damage. Yep. And from a 2-minute phone call and about 30 minutes worth of effort, but we were able to stop that. And before this, I don't know if those relationships would have been in place to make that phone call because the trust wasn't necessarily there. Yep. So thank you so very much for working. Thank you for allowing your amazing team to do the things that they're doing. And there's just so much more that can come from this, other than just making houses look better. We're healing some hearts along with rebuilding some houses. And so thank you all for all your hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. All righty. Anybody got anything else? If not, we will move on. Item 16, new business.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Boy, it seems like we got the commissioner's comments quickly. There's going to be so much more to talk about. So how about we'll start on your end, because it would, Benny being his last full meeting, I'll let you go last. All righty. Sound good? We'll start with you, Daniel.
Yeah, quickly appreciate Mr. Young. Look forward to working with you and appreciate all you're doing in the community. And I'm not typically a huge fan of PUDs, but it looks like a nice product. And when we get into higher density, having quality products and different options for families, I think is a needed deal. And so excited to welcome Ms. McNabb Fox to the team, and glad to have you. And also, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't honor and thank Jacob for holding down the fort. And he's brought a lot of good tax news for a lot of months, so a little pressure. But welcome, and we're so glad to have you in our community and on the team here. And then just thanks to our Love Your Block team. Travis was commenting on it. Civic pride is a big deal, and so for our residents to have pride and hope restored in those neighborhoods It goes a long way to really saying we are one community, and so appreciative of that work that's going on.
I'd also like to say welcome to our new treasurer. And you do have some big shoes to fill with all the good news we get every month on sales tax recently. Thank you to the Love Your Block volunteers and participants. That program has been so impressive. I know the work that you do is making a big difference, more than just the facades of the houses, but just the facades of the houses look amazing. I'm thoroughly impressed with what's happening with that project. I'm also really excited to see the Kickapoo sidewalk project get started. I think that's going to make a huge difference for our community. It's almost impossible to walk down Kickapoo, so we have a lot of people that walk to work or just want to walk in between businesses occasionally without getting hit by a car. So I'm excited to see those projects moving forward and see the bid come in a little bit lower than we thought. That's all I have right now.
And just, yeah, don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I think it's just something that we need to continue to celebrate, and that is our Love Your Block program. And then just to continue to celebrate the amazing employees that have worked so hard to move Shawnee forward and to move our city forward. And thank you, citizens, for finding the strength and courage to come up here every week and tell us what's on your heart and your mind, because we definitely need that, and we definitely appreciate those comments. Mr. Salter, thank you so much for your dedication and your effort over the years. We greatly appreciate your service. And just one last thing, and this is something that's kind of hard, and I hope I can make this through this without becoming a mess, but after our extremely fun meeting last Monday, I got a phone call that a father never wants to get, and that's that something bad was going on at our house, and it was something that I couldn't take care of by myself, and we had to call our amazing officers from our Shawnee Police Force to come, and within seconds, which felt like hours, they were there and took care of the problem, and took care of the problem without incident. And I cannot say thank you enough to the amazing men and women who work so hard to keep us safe every night and every day. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Sir?
You guys do a good job covering everything down there.
Don't leave us much, do they?
Yeah, I mean, the Love Your Block program is fantastic. Thank you guys for doing that, and thanks to all the volunteers. Welcome to Shawnee. Looking forward to you continuing our good news that we've been getting. Ben, we've been up here for a while.
That's right.
And I'm assuming this is going to be your last official meeting? Is that the way this?
Full meeting.
Yeah, full meeting?
It's a
Yes.
start, the
Yes.
next one.
So, thank you for keeping me on the straight and narrow, and appreciate your integrity for all your years. I appreciate that. Cops and Kids, 27th of August. That will be a week from this coming Saturday, 11 to 4. Everybody come out. It's going to be fantastic.
I'm sure you'll remind me of that, so. Benny, it's been a pleasure to sit up here with you and learn a lot from you. The integrity you bring is unmatched. Welcome to Shawnee. I think you'll really like the community. And like I say, I'm sure the good news will continue. One thing I did see in that sales tax report, which me and Darren probably see it more than a lot of them or is use tax is down a little bit, but sales tax is up, which means the community is shopping in Shawnee instead of shopping online, which is a welcome sight if you're a retailer here in Shawnee. So that's always good to see. Love Your Block program. Ricky, I know you work hard at that. We appreciate it. I appreciate all the volunteers that come out and help with that. Benny?
Well, I appreciate all of the comments, and welcome to Shawnee, and appreciate Jacob taking hold and guiding us through everything. I think that Commissioner's comments is a little early in the agenda because there's going to be a lot happen, and we may need to discuss it then. But I've enjoyed the ride, so
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'll have a little lot. You guys have covered a lot. Lindsay, welcome to Shawnee. We're sure glad to have you. Jacob, thank you for all you've done. Love Your Block grant. Man, just that just been an amazing program. So thank you so much. And everybody in town, please volunteer. Go help Shakaya and her group, do more of these projects. So we can't do it without volunteers. The sidewalk project is really exciting. I've had folks contact me that are handicapped and use scooters, and it's like, how do I get to this store or that store? And now they're going to be able to do that. So I know that's going to make a lot of folks happy. Cops and Kids is coming up in a week, as Darren said. He's guaranteeing nice, cool weather. Isn't that right? So always a great event. So go out and check that out. Hopefully, folks got to go down to the Balloon Festival because that was amazing as always, and we're so lucky to have that around here. Thank you, staff, for the administrative reports. I think it's always good when you guys update us on what's going on, and I know people appreciate. It seems like we do those every meeting now, which I really love. So can't wait to see what we have next. And Benny, thank you for your service. I know in the 4 years that I've been on the commission, you've been here much longer than I have, and I really appreciate working with you. Great guy, and just just couldn't be a better person. So we appreciate all your hard work and everything you do for the city of Shawnee. I know you got a big heart for town, and it shows. So thank you so much, and I know we'll see you for at least a little while next meeting, but but we appreciate all your hard work. So let's see where we're at, if I can find through this big stack of papers we got. So we'll go to item 18, consideration and possible action to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussion regarding national prescription opiate litigation, Northern District of Ohio, Eastern Division, case number 117 MD 2804, as authorized by 25 OS 307B4. So I think we're looking for a motion.
Make a motion to go into executive session.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Daniel and Darren. All righty, so we have a motion and a second to go into executive session on item 18. We'll call the question. Motion passes 7-0, so we will go down the hall and we will be back.
We talked about that, didn't we?
We'll need more women on the staff.
Looks like everybody's back, so we'll get started again. Okay, item 19, consider matters discussed in
Do we need to,
Yes,
do
sir.
we need to come back out of executive session officially? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Just, reconvene from our executive session. So item 19 is consider matters discussed in executive session regarding litigation in the case regarding National Prescription Opiate Litigation, Northern District of Ohio, Eastern case number 117 MD 2804, as authorized by 25 OS 307B 4. All righty. Discussion on that item. Is it slowing down on you? It's not doing a thing on it, is it? Nope.
It's on strike. Yeah.
You broke it. Good. All right, any discussion on that item?
Thank you.
There we go. So,
We need
so we have
we need a
two.
motion on 20?
Yeah, we need a motion on 19, do we not?
No,
not
No.
So we don't need to.
Only if a member of the board
Okay.
wishes to make a motion with regard to the executive session, that wouldn't be encompassed by agenda item 20 or 21.
Yep. I'm not seeing any. So with that, we will move on.
We'll show no action on
There's
19.
no action on 19. Item 20, consideration of resolution of the City of Shawnee to approve participation in the Jansen, Oklahoma subdivision opioid settlement agreement. And I think, Joe, you were up.
We need a motion to approve.
Yep.
Item 20. I'll make a motion to approve item 20.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. All righty. That got you off the hook. You're got to read, though.
I do, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
A resolution of the City of Shawnee to approve participation in Jansen, Oklahoma subdivision opioid settlement agreement.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion. Let's see, who made the motion? You did, Darren. And who made the second? That's Travis.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, guys. All right, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 20. We will call the question. Motion passes 7-0. Item 21, consideration of resolution of the City of Shawnee to approve participation in Distributors Oklahoma Settlement Agreement. Anything that you need to add to that?
No, Mr. Mayor, I'd
Okay.
be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Joe? If not, I think we would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve item 21.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Daniel and Cammy. All right, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution of the City of Shawnee to approve participation in Distributors Oklahoma settlement agreement.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second to approve item 21. We'll call the question. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, we will recess and then open the airport authority. And we'll go to SMA also. So Airport Authority, item 1, consider approval of the consent agenda. Hopefully everybody's got to that. I'll switch gears on you, so give you a minute. If anybody doesn't have anything, we'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. We have motion and a second for approval of item 1. We'll call the question. Motion passes 7-0. Item 2, new business.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. We are adjourned and move on to municipal authority. Item 1, consider approval of consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
One second.
Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second for approval of item 1. We'll call the question. Motion passes 6 in favor and 1 abstention. Item 2, consider an executive session for discussion and possible action regarding potential claims, litigation, or other options as authorized by 25 OS 307B4 on the recommendation of council that public discussion would impair the ability of the city attorney to adequately defend the city. So we're looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move we go to executive session.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session for item 2. We'll call the question. Motion passes 7-0. We'll go back down the hall and be back in a minute. Okay, so we are back in session. And let's see, we're at what, item 3, aren't we? Consider matters discussed in executive session regarding potential claims, litigation, and or other options as authorized by 25 OS 307B4 on recommendations of counsel that public discussion would impair the ability of the city attorney to adequately defend the city. So is there any discussion on that? If not, we will move on. Item 4, consider and take action with respect to a resolution of the Shawnee Municipal Authority, the authority approving and authorizing a clean water SRF loan from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board in the total aggregate principal amount of $65,635,000 and approving the issuancy of a promissory note in the total aggregate principal amount of $65,635,000 secured by a pledge of revenues and authorizing its execution, approving and authorizing the execution of a loan agreement for a clean water SRF loan, designating a local trustee, and approving and authorizing the execution of a trust agreement, approving and authorizing the execution of a security agreement, ratifying and confirming a lease agreement, an operation and maintenance contract as amended, approving various covenants, approving and authorizing payment of fees and expenses, and containing other provisions relating thereto. And Andrea is already up there.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Mr. Mayor and City Manager, before, just a point of order, before we get into any reconsideration,
Right.
It would be appropriate for
a motion
to reconsider to be made by a no vote from the prior meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a motion that we reconsider.
Alrighty, and I will offer the second. I think you're up.
We need to call the question.
Oh, we need to call the question, we do. Thank you. And the ayes have it 7-0. Now you're up.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you again about the wastewater treatment project. It will greatly impact our capability to treat wastewater. And this is not just for our current residents, but it is for our children's children. This is truly a long-term project. For some of you, this presentation may look very familiar. Please bear with me as some of the information you heard during last week's special meeting will be repeated this evening. You will again hear about current operations and capacities at both of the wastewater treatment plants, potential upgrade options, the pros and cons thereof, project cost involved, financial options, which is truly what this particular agenda item is about, and then of course any additional questions or answers that you may have. Southside Wastewater Treatment Plant was first constructed in 1952. It is a trickle filter system of which there are only very few remaining within the state. Built in 1952, the facility was subsequently upgraded in 1960, 1971, 1980, and most recently in 1989. The components at that wastewater treatment plant facility are at a very minimum 33 years old. The south side treatment capacity is 3 million gallons per day, MGD for short. And as you can see, we have not truly exceeded the capacity of that facility. That is not the problem at that particular site. The treatment process itself used at the south side plant has a significant amount of piping and requires extensive pumping, key mechanical equipment and systems, have exceeded their design life, which is usually 30 years. So we're looking at some of those parts being 70 years old. As you can imagine, this results in excessive operation and maintenance costs at that facility. The facility is currently staffed 24/7, 10 different staff, and operations cost runs us usually around $826,000 a year in personnel, materials, and other services. So long past its design life of 30 years, we're looking at 70-year-old infrastructure. As you can imagine, various components of that facility have cracks, leaks, structural issues, and parts to repair are extremely difficult to find. In some cases, we have to manufacture those or order them custom built because they are no longer produced. Due to the age and condition of the existing process, among other factors, operation at the south side occasionally does not meet all of the discharge values for which it was permitted. The north side wastewater treatment plant was constructed 30 years later, 1982, and it is an activated sludge treatment system. It was subsequently updated in 1996, so even there, the youngest of the components are at a minimum 26 years old. The rated treatment capacity at the north side is 3.2 MGD. Peak capacity, if everything is in order, is a 6.4. The cost to operate the facility averages on a given year about $668,000, and the physical condition of most of the components are still good. However, what we run into are several of the components do not operate at peak capacity and really should be improved overall. So, south side is very old, needs to be replaced, does not always do its job as originally designed. North side could stand some improvements. Knowing that we need to make some major improvement, infrastructure improvements, various different alternatives were considered. That process was started in 2019 and 2020 to find the most beneficial option and the best path forward. And of course, with any major infrastructure project, the first thing you look at is the do nothing, the build nothing component or alternative. Lowest cost, as you can imagine, but of course it carries all of the risk of continued harm to the environment and public health, because at this point in time, south side does not function as originally intended. In addition to that, we would incur escalated enforcement action by ODEQ and potential fines. So in 2019 and 2020, the City Commission looked at several different alternatives, and those two that you see on the screen there are the two that were taken really close into account. Option one would include necessary improvements on the north side, so improving some of the performance issues we have there. It would also include a brand new south side plant inclusive of a new treatment process. For this particular alternative in 2020 spoke the fact that it was slightly less expensive than option two. Against that particular alternative spoke the fact that the south side plant operations would remain almost entirely below the 100-year floodplain elevation. And in the past, flood events have impacted operations around every 4 to 5 years. Updates also do not include long-term growth capacity at the north side, so this was calculated out at a very low growth rate. If we were to grow at any faster rate, then we would run out of that capacity sooner. In addition to that, two separate plant costs almost $500,000 more to operate per year, and that is not just personnel, that is also chemical cost, and those costs, of course, increase year by year. Option two, on the other hand, this option would see the south side plant infrastructure reduced to a simple lift station, and sewage would be sent to the north side plant. This option would also see the north side plant completely updated to a new treatment process, new plant side piping, new treatment works, sequential batch reactor treatment system, and the appropriate capacity. What speaks for this particular alternative are the net savings per year in operational cost. removing the south side treatment operations and only leaving the lift station. If a flooding event was to occur, it is much easier to bring a lift station back online than it is to bring a whole treatment operation back online. In addition to that, it would offer the opportunity to expand if growth continues at a higher rate than originally thought. And that is of particular importance because Shawnee is looking at the 6 laning of I-40 and the Turnpike extension. So our very low growth rates of currently 0.4% per year may look very different once those major transportation infrastructure projects are happening. What spoke against that alternative in 2020 was the fact that the setup would be slightly more expensive than option 1. And just to give you a different overview of those two options, what you see here on the image is option 1. Option 1 shown on the right, the north side would include all the necessary improvements. So you see the red overlaid on all of the infrastructure that's already on the north side planned. The only new thing added on the north side would be a larger stormwater retention basin, which is the very large rectangle to the north of the existing infrastructure. Option 1 would also add the new south side operations, which you can see there on the left-hand side in the center of the image. That would be the Aramod treatment facility. Of course, retained would be the stormwater retention pond that we already have. In comparison, option 2, on the left side, again, the south side, that footprint would be reduced to just simply the lift station, again with the retention of the current stormwater basin. But on the north side, you see all new infrastructure. So none of the previous infrastructure would be reused or upgraded in any which way. It would be a completely new process that could be built without interrupting the process of wastewater treatment in the meantime during the construction process. In addition to that, if you look just under what it would be the new stormwater retention basin on the north side of the north side property, we have some room to expand to the left, and we would be able to bring additional sequential batch reactors online if growth demanded it at that time. Giving you a brief overview of what the cost considerations were back in 2019 and 2020 when we first started comparing these two options. Option 1 in 2020, the $33.5 million, was one that did not include new headworks and chlorine disinfection on the north side. If you're looking at the 39.7 number, that included those additional updates on the north side. With the cost information from the August 1 bid for option 2, our project manager, our project engineer estimated that today's cost of option 1 would run at a minimum 77.9 million. So a considerable increase over what was before 33.5 and 39.7 million. At 77.9 million, option 1 still appears less expensive. However, the biggest unknown is the potential increase in final cost, since the city would have to finalize design and obtain the necessary permitting before we could actually go out to bid. So no earlier than fall of 2023. A lot of things can happen between now and fall of 2023 in terms of price increases, access to contractors, and then, of course, the interest rate. If cost was just to increase by 30% after the most recent increases we've seen for labor and materials, that is not out of the realm of possibilities. Option 1 costs could increase to between 85 million and 103 million to implement and still not offer the capacity for additional growth. If interest rates were to also rise by just 1 point in the same time, we could look at a further financing cost of 7.4 million to 10.3 million for that very project. Option 2 itself was estimated back in 2020 at 40.3 million. And of course, you know that we have an August 1 bid in hand for 103.6 million. To put these numbers into perspective, the cost increase of this very substantial cost increase is not unique to Shawnee. When we checked with our peer entities, each one of them had encountered similar increases over the engineer estimate. In some cases, it was just 56%. In other cases, it was 151% over the engineer's estimate. So we are not alone in this particular boat. Based on what you just heard, timing has become a significant risk factor in this current economy. What we know is that cities across Oklahoma are gearing up to implement ARPA projects, our American Rescue Plan Act projects, and soon the bipartisan infrastructure law funding will come out to play too. We had 6 bidders pre-qualified for this particular project, and 3 of those have taken different projects in the meantime, so our pool of prospective contractors shrank. We anticipate that that is a likely development to continue once additional ARPA funding and bill-funded projects come out to play. What is laid out in this particular slide is on the very top, option 2 schedule, where you see the long red bar that entails all of the construction if we were to proceed with that particular bid. What is right below is option 1 broken up into 2 phases, one for the south side, which we would be able to send out for a bid after design and permitting is done, and then have it finish around the same time. And then the north side could actually not go to bid until sometime thereafter, July of 2024, and again, finish around the same time frame. So from a timing standpoint, both option 1 and option 2 would not be much different. It's just the timing for the final bids could have a significant impact. Financial options that are available to us, we have already secured back in 2019 and 2021 when interest rates were particularly favorable, Oklahoma Water Resources Board loans in the amount of $51 million. Those are available for this particular project. As you can see by the option 2 numbers, the bids that we just received, we will need an additional $65.6 million in order to bring that project on. OWRB has indicated that the city could apply for this additional funding through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. However, in order to satisfy the debt service criteria, the city would also have to come to the table with additional revenue sources to pay the loan back over time. For that, we have 2 different financial options, but they are not immediately accessible. What is immediately accessible is the graduated utility fee versus the half-cent sales tax does require a vote of the people. If, for example, the City Commission was to decide to move ahead with a funding application through the OWRB, we would have to put in place also the graduated utility fee. What we've heard after the special meeting was longer is better, less impact is better, whatever staff can do, and we had a financial counsel run all of those numbers again. We could utilize a modified 5/5, where the first increase would not take place until March of 2023. It would be $5. It would then be followed up over the course of 4 additional years with a $4.75 increase for a total of $24 once everything is in place. It would give people time to adjust to these increases in their utility fees. The reason it could be pushed out to March is because in the meantime, if that was the desire of the City Commission, you could instruct staff to work towards a sales tax election. If passed by the voters, going out for a sales tax vote, for example, in January of next year, that sales tax vote could then be turned around once approved, and we could begin sales tax collection in April and would never have to call in the utility fee increase. So that is definitely an option. But again, I would like to remind the commission that without having the utility fee increase approved this evening, OWRB would not extend the loan to us because we currently do not have enough capacity, as in money not tied up in maintenance and operations in our ongoing water treatment, with which we could service the debt that we would incur. With that said, I know some of this information has been repeated, but I myself and all of the folks you see here would be happy to answer any additional questions you have.
We're ready. Questions?
Ouch.
Yeah. Any way you look at it. Anybody got questions? I know you didn't get the opportunity last week, so not many from our side. And want to make sure we get all your questions answered for sure.
I'll pipe in a little bit, because I've been on the fence on this from the get-go. You know, you're worried about adding cost to people's water bills that are already struggling on fixed incomes. So that was the issue, you know, and then, you know, concerned about leveraging the city to where, you know, we're kind of getting ourselves in a box canyon. The other side of the coin, and really this happened to me this afternoon, that probably made my decision. Matter of fact, it did make my decision on what I was going to do. And it came down to, I mean, I've talked to construction people, engineers, numerous people, and, you know, and it's just a hard decision. But on the plus side of it, you know, and this actually came from my daughter, was talking about something that was totally irrelevant about this, but she was having issues. She's the new assistant AD at Shawnee. And about 15 years ago, when my son was, I guess he graduated before they played in the new gym. They built a new gymnasium. It's got one gym in it. One floor, they don't have enough practice areas, so they utilized the gym downtown for years, which is wore out, which is our Southside treatment plant, and now they need about $2 million to do it. They can't use it. So they're having to bus students to St. Gregory's to practice because they don't have enough gym space, because they should have built a bigger gym to where it had multiple floors. It would have cost more money, but to succeed and plan for the future, sometimes we got to bite off more than we feel comfortable with. And, you know, and me and Darren's been in business for years, and you know, you make decisions, and over the 38 years I've been there, I've made some that I should have made years earlier that cost me a lot of money because I didn't feel comfortable kind of getting off that ledge out of your comfort zone. But I think as a community, over the next 50 years, doing a lift station on the south side and going to a new plant on the north side that gives us the ability to grow and expand. And we're planning for our future, not right now. Because if we do the other one, we're planning for right now. And if something does come to play, like the gym, you know, the north plant starts wearing out, and then we're going to be right back in here building another plant to do, because that plant's 40 years old. So early today, I was on the fence, and more thought about it. I think it makes a lot more sense for me to let's build a new plant. You know, either, I mean, the sales tax makes more sense because you let people outside the community pay for it, but we still got to pass it. But, you know, I think we're semi-passionate on the other way, and it may come back and bite us. And when the dust clears, it's probably, even if we came out better on the building the new one down on the south side and save $20 million, you know, over the long term with the operating cost. Interest rate's going to go up, we know that, you know, that's $500,000 a year just in itself. So, you know, we either not need to bite the bullet or don't do anything. So that's my 15 cents.
Yep. Thoughts? Anybody else?
And I generally don't talk like that long, so. Anybody else?
Andrea, I know that we've talked extensively because so I'm a business owner too, and I'm not a gambler. And my philosophy is typically to do the best thing that you can with the money that you have as quickly as possible to prevent further expenses. And so when I wrestle with this, I know we've talked about additional ways to fund this and why those really aren't options, because this utility increase total amount is really hard to swallow when you think about especially elderly people on fixed incomes that are never going to have a different income. I do really appreciate staff coming up with this prolonged implementation of that, allowing the voters to choose, because however we shake it, we have to do this. We have to fix the wastewater treatment plant. And my biggest fear is if we don't do two, we might find out one will be just as expensive, and then we haven't fixed it like it really needs to be done for the future, and in the long term, it will end up costing the city more. And then we still have to go back to the voters and say, we're increasing your utilities, and it may be more. I don't know, but the safest bet to me is option 2. The least gamble, even though it's more expensive.
I have more scratch math, which I know you're all excited about. And again, please jump in but when we evaluate how to, I think all of us have, well, first, I appreciate the Water Resource Board giving us a de facto deferral to help make this decision, and those on staff and those that are helping us that allowed that. Gave us time to talk to constituents. It gave us time to talk to other communities that are going through this process, and it's many times we have two things that are black and white, and you choose the best. And this one we have one that's black and white and one that's speculative, which makes it a harder decision, or harder to compare. So comparing notes, I heard last time, if we believe that doing nothing is not an option. We don't currently have an option 3, no matter how many times I ask for one on the table. So let's take option 1 at the lowest cost you've given us, because it's what we have to go on, of $65 million. I heard at the last meeting that would get us through for 30 years of growth, at which time we would have to do a large-scale project. So I'm looking at my lifetime, I'm 41. Sometime in my lifetime, we're going to have to do another large-scale project. And let's say the big-scale project in that cost 150. Speculation, but I think that's a fair number. That means in my lifetime, we would have spent $215 million on wastewater treatment. If we do option 2, which we have certain and on the table now, not discounting at all that it's painful. It's expensive. It's more expensive because stuff wasn't done in the past. But we have $103 million. So when we talk about use of taxpayer funds and being stewards of those funds, while painful and while it appears to be more expensive now, when I look at the distance of my life and what we're providing for my kids and my grandkids, a savings of $100 million potentially is a big deal. When we look at comparing option 1 and option 2, in 2020, we believed that option 2 was a better option. It was about $15-ish million more, but we believed that it was a better enough option that it was worth $15 million. So factor that in. If we lose 2 interest rate points, we lose $16 million. We lose $1 million of forgiveness, principal forgiveness that we currently have. If we do nothing, we lose $4.5 million in engineering, and we lose $15 million of operational savings over the life, which again, I think makes option two, while painful, an option that I'm prepared to support. The game changer for me was the fact that we can put the tax vote before we implement the fee. We are elected to represent the community and make a decision we believe is in the best interest of our constituents. But in this rare instance, I believe we have the ability to put that decision literally in their hands. And as I've talked to community members this week who have paid attention, that's not all of them, but when I've talked to community members that have paid attention and that I respect, they understand the levity of this. And people who I would have told you would never vote for a tax have told me they're prepared to vote yes, because they understand that it's a sharing method. We have large places of commerce that attract many, many guests. In fact, a majority of their receipts are from people outside our city limits, which allows us to not bear the cost ourselves. Again, we're not comparing black and white to black and white. It's black and white to speculation. But when I look at the overall cost that the city will expend over my lifetime, I think it's a painful but better decision. And then when I look at comparing the two and trying to do the best math we can, I still think it comes out to a good decision. So I'm hopeful that the citizens will share the cost with our friends and neighbors who spend their dollars in our amazing businesses, while knowing that not having a toilet that will flush would be catastrophic to the future of Shawnee if we were to have a absolutely horrible situation. And anyway, I'm excited. I believe in representative government, and in this case, I believe the best way we can say this is an issue for our community is to approve the funding, but let the voters decide exactly how we want to pay for it.
Anybody else? I have a hunch 30 years down the road, and I may or may not be here to see it. I bet that 150 would be cheap compared to what it would be then. But, only time will tell. But I just think if we don't do this, we're really boxing ourselves in. And I think 30 years from now, there'll be 7 people up here cussing us for not dealing with it.
I have one more question.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
We've talked about ARPA money, and this may be the professionals may need to help us. Let's just say 100 million for giggles. We get the loan, and but then in the meantime, the tax passes. However that's structured, is that 10-year, half cent? However it's structured, it's going to bring in so much revenue. ARPA money, infrastructure money hits someone says, man, we love Shawnee. We're so glad that you guys have this project, and they throw money at the wastewater treatment plant from ARPA or Build Back Better, which would then cause the tax to go over the amount we need for the project. What happens?
This was going to be a very big admin report at the very next commission meeting about funding needs for infrastructure in general. We have a lot of infrastructure in the ground, water lines, sewer lines, even roadways, which are currently funded at a level that does not fully maintain them. So being able to pay the loan back faster because there's additional ARPA money would save us money in financing. That is a wonderful idea. We would have so many other infrastructure projects that could then, that money could be directed to, as you know, we get a lot of complaints on potholes. So we have a lot of water lines and sewer lines that are ancient that could use renewal.
So what I hear you saying is the question put to voters would be in a way where it would pay for this project. Any overage would be then
would be pledged towards
Gotcha.
Infrastructure improvements.
That's great. I just wanted to
Yes.
make sure everyone understood that going forward.
Anybody else want to make sure everybody gets the Say what you want to say.
I just think that, I mean, that is another continued conversation to where, 2 years ago when we had the massive freeze that destroyed so much. And I think that if we have something similar to that again this year, what in the world would that look like? Because I know that there are side streets and neighborhoods all over Shawnee where you can see the water leaking around the shut-off valves that are just poking out of the asphalt and the concrete, and all that's a teeny tiny leak right now. There's no telling what's going on underneath, washing stuff out, and we have a freeze, then we're gonna have exploded lines all over the place. I think that from what conversations that I've had with some of our amazing citizens was the fact that although it is painful, the conversation over and over again was, we'll make sure that we have a fully funded police, fully funded fire, and fully funded utilities, so that we can be safe and that we can have the basic things that we need as humans to be taken care of. And I think that that's the over and over and over is what I've heard from folks. And that although nobody likes it, the agreement has come to be, let's make sure we do this right, no matter what the cost. So.
Felt like you were winding up to say something.
What happens currently at Southside if we lose power for 48 hours? What currently happens at Southside plant if we were to lose power for 48 hours?
We have the same amount of generator.
If the generator fails into the holding ponds, okay. If that's a lift station, what happens?
Same scenario, I think.
Same scenario. So there's still holding ponds, so
And
gravity still
generators.
does its thing.
What about a flood? Yeah. The difference between if it flooded now and if it flooded with the lift station.
Currently, the issue with flooding is that we have a hole in the dock going out to the river. So if you come back, that's what happens. It doesn't go over the docks. It comes back through the pipe into the plant. Plugging that pipe with the lift station. So while we can look at the water that falls straight down into it, the river's not gonna come back through the piping and back into the plant. So we're sealing everything off. And the elevation of the lift station platform is raised up above the flood level. That's the two things we do. So now the problem that they've had in the past is that the river actually backs up to the pipe and comes back into the plant. We're taking care of that by sealing it off.
Any other questions?
I have one that's unrelated, but
Sure.
it was emailed to me, so I thought we would get it on the record.
Well,
I had
go
a
ahead.
question from a citizen regarding the treatment of water that we currently get from West Watkins.
Yes.
I forwarded it to staff, and you can just confirm, that's more of a water treatment facility issue that will be resolved in the current project that's nearing completion, not a part of this project.
I got that same question.
But it will be addressed and improved, is my understanding.
That is correct. That is part of our water treatment plant update, and we're already in the middle of that particular project. It will have improved treatment methods for drinking water, and the water we take from West Watkins has some odor, some turbidity issues that our new water treatment plant can handle much better.
So separate issue, but it was a concern to a citizen, so I want to make sure that we got it addressed. Thank you.
Anybody else? Ben, you good?
Well, yeah. Last meeting, I was very vocal about the utility fees and all of the set salaries that our citizens have. And I have talked to a lot of people this week. And I was surprised they would go for the sales tax as opposed to the utility fee. And so if we can get that passed, and it's gonna take somebody that's willing to talk to anybody that wants to listen and to promote that. And I appreciate staff figuring it out and not starting the utility fees until March 1 of 23. And that will give us, you all, that will give you all more time to get a hold of January. Now, did I hear you say that is there going to be a termination date on the sales tax?
That is up to the city commission. It would be my recommendation not to put a cutoff date, because these infrastructure needs, and we will have a lot more information for you with the next admin report. What the city, and I know this is a little outside of the topic this evening, this particular item. We are implementing an asset management system, something that the city has not had. We are actively tracking our inventory of infrastructure. Again, this is something that the city's not had to this particular extent before. So we will have much better data on how much infrastructure do we currently have in the ground in terms of cost, how much does it cost us to maintain it, how much will be needed over its life cycle to keep it in a good level of service and state of good repair. This is information that the city just simply did not have access to, and probably thus not quite knowing where to set the funding level for continued maintenance and upkeep. So there are tremendous needs, and the city of Shawnee is not alone in this. I've worked with other cities where there is equal need for funding for built infrastructure, roadways, water lines, sewer lines, and everybody's grappling with a problem of we've built all of these things, but we've not set aside the appropriate amount of funding to maintain them and keep them up. And so there will be a continued increased need for infrastructure funding. Thus, staff's recommendation would be not to set a sunset date on the sales tax, but pledge it towards nothing but infrastructure improvements.
But we get to have that discussion past tonight, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I know we have an item that potentially.
Just in general terms, though, that payoff for the OS is probably 20 years?
The sales tax receipts would be higher than what we would have been able to create in revenue than the utility fee based on historic receipts. So we would be done paying off OWRB loan sooner than anticipated. Where exactly that falls, sales tax is a little volatile. 20 years would be awesome. I just would not want to make that promise.
So at least 20 years. So basically, it becomes permanent, which ties our hands for doing the other infrastructure currently.
You have a half seat falling off, because that other one was ordered
In 5 years.
in 5 years, so it frees up.
It
So we
does.
got 5 years that it ties our hands.
Questions, any more discussion? Everybody good? Alrighty. Okay, so I'll tell you what, I will do like I did last week. I'll make a motion to approve item 4.
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. Alrighty, Counselor, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution of the Shawnee Municipal Authority approving and authorizing a clean water SRF loan from the Oklahoma Water Resources Board in the total aggregate principal amount of $65,635,000. Approving the issuance of a promissory note in the total aggregate principal amount of $65,635,000, secured by a pledge of revenues and authorizing its execution. Approving and authorizing the execution of a loan agreement for clean water SRF loan, designating a local trustee, and approving and authorizing the execution of a trust agreement, approving and authorizing the execution of a security agreement, ratifying and confirming a lease agreement and operation and maintenance contract as amended, approving various covenants, approving and authorizing payment of fees and expenses, and containing other provisions relating thereto.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 4. We'll call the question. Motion passes 6-1. Alrighty, move on. Let's see, we will recess and reconvene the city commission meeting. We'll go to item 22. Alrighty, consider, item 22 is consider and take action with respect to a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, the city, approving action taken by the Shawnee Municipal Authority, the authority, authorizing issuance, sale, and delivery of its clean water SRF promissory note to Oklahoma Water Resources Board, ratifying and confirming a lease agreement and operation and maintenance contract as amended, whereby the city leased its water and sanitary sewer systems to the authority and containing other provisions related thereto. And let's see, are you up again, Andrea?
Thank you. This is a resolution to consider putting in place the promissory note. Actually, it is approving the action that was taken by the Shawnee Municipal Authority. I just grabbed my wrong piece of paper. So the Shawnee Municipal Authority just approved the promissory note. It will require the action of the City Commission to approve that action.
So just following through on that.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll second.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Will, I think he can ask that now, can he not, since we have both? It's all, floor is yours, sir.
So we ratified the loan. This is approving that vote. I mean, I voted nay earlier.
Oh, I think I see where you're going.
I want to clarify where we are here procedurally. I guess I'm not denying that that passed.
Right.
I'm accepting that I agree.
This would be a ratification, and so.
Absolutely.
In Oklahoma, only a public trust can incur a debt. So as the public trust, you voted that and you've approved that debt, state law also requires that the beneficiary of a public trust approves the action taken by the public trust.
Right.
So that's all you're doing here is as the city council, you're approving that or you're ratifying that action of the public trust that's been taken.
Okay.
I think you understood that. Your question is, can your vote be inconsistent without creating an issue?
That is correct.
And I would say no. I mean, it can be, and it will not create an issue.
Yeah, the two separate legal bodies, so however you voted the first time does not bind you how you would vote this time.
Thank you.
Okay. You good? Okay, did you read your thing yet?
I have not read my thing.
All right,
Mr. Mayor.
make sure I'm in the right spot. As long as we're all good, then we'll move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Shawnee, Oklahoma, approving the action taken by the Shawnee Municipal Authority, authorizing issuance, sale, and delivery of its clean water SRF promissory note to the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, ratifying and confirming the lease agreement and operation and maintenance contract as amended, whereby the city leased its water and sanitary sewer systems to the authority and containing other provisions related thereto.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve item 22. We'll call the question. And motion passes 7-0. Item 23 is consideration of an ordinance amending portions of the Shawnee Municipal Code, Chapter 26, Utilities, by adding and adopting a utility improvement fee and providing for repeal, providing for severability, and providing for codification. And Andrea's up again.
Commissioners, Mayor, this is for an ordinance to actually put the graduated utility fee in place. We currently do not have the appropriate section within our code. This would add this section 26-30, the utility improvement fee, for the specific purpose of funding capital improvements and the payment of any debt services incurred therefore.
Alrighty. Any questions? I think we've talked about this quite a bit, so.
I guess if we've had
Yes, sir.
the SMA pass the one, we ratified that, what if this were to fail?
Probably a problem, wouldn't it?
Was that a question for me? If this item was to fail, if we were not to create the appropriate section within the code, we could then also not proceed with the next agenda item, which would actually set the fee. And at that point in time, we would not have the security to back the loan.
Any other questions?
I understand.
I'll make a motion to approve
Thank you,
23.
ma'am.
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. Joe, you are up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance amending portions of the Shawnee Municipal Code, Chapter 26, Utilities, by adding and adopting utility improvement fee and providing for repeal, providing for codification, and providing for severability.
Thank you, sir. All righty, we have a motion and second for approval of item 23. We'll call the question. Motion passes 7-0. Item 24, I have a friend up here. Item 24, consideration of a resolution updating the city fee schedule by setting the monthly rate of utility improvement fee pursuant to Chapter 26, Article 2, Section 26-30 of the City Code, and providing for readoption of the city fee schedule in whole. Yes, ma'am.
This is related to the item that was just approved, now that we have or will have a section within our code that allows us to assess a utility fee for our utility accounts. This specifically states how that graduated utility fee increase would be implemented. Starting March 1, 2023, it would be $5, and then for 4 years thereafter, again on the March 1st anniversary thereof, it would be an additional $4.75 for a total of $24 that would be reached by March 1, 2027.
Any questions? We talked about this, just for clarity's sake. I know every year we look at the water rates, and this is above and beyond that. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was very clear that that's two separate issues.
That is correct. This particular utility fee is not subject to any consumer price index increases.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
So then we would come back separately. Should the tax pass, we would come back and rescind this, or will that be part of the question to the voters that?
The city fee schedule is set by resolution, so at that point in time, the city commission would come back and say, this is no longer necessary and we're taking it off our fee schedule.
Gotcha. Just want to make sure.
Very good.
It would have to be on the honor system. It could not be part of the ballot, correct?
Is this by resolution?
Right.
Yep. So we'd probably do that sometime in February. I would guess. I guess we would take that action like in February then, if it was taking effect in March and voters voted in, hopefully in January, then we've got that window to take action.
Based upon the express intent of the commission, once the
Absolutely.
election results are certified, then that would be right for the decision.
Very good. Okay. So we're looking for a motion on item 24.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Is that you, Mark? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we have a motion and a second, so Joe, you're up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A resolution updating the city fee schedule by setting the monthly rate of the utility improvement fee pursuant to Chapter 26, Article 2, Section 26-30 of the city code and providing for the readoption of the city fee schedule in whole.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 24. We'll call the question. Motion passes 7-0. Item 25, discussion of potential future sales tax vote. I know we've talked about this quite a bit, but
We did. Again, if it is the city commission's desire to have staff prepare the necessary documents to put this to a vote of the people, we'd be happy to do so. We would like to bring this item back to you for further discussion about the terms. I know that we had some discussions this evening as part of a previous agenda item about potential pledging a sales tax towards infrastructure improvements, the discussion of a potential sunset date or not. Those are all things that will have to be considered. I would like to suggest to the City Commission that they allow staff to give an admin report on infrastructure in general to kind of flesh out that entire context. And then we'd be happy to prepare the necessary paperwork for a sales tax vote. I know that in the meantime, Lisa has looked at several potential dates. The reason the January 10 date was mentioned is because we could immediately turn around and start April 1 collection of that particular sales tax. So it would entirely supplant the fee increase that was just voted on.
okay, very good. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
All righty, thank you so much. So, let's see, we will adjourn and then go back to the SMA. All righty, so we should be at item 5. Lisa, am I right? 5, is that where we're at? Okay, very good. Confirm action taken by City Commission on agenda item number 23 with respect to an ordinance amending portions of the Shawnee Municipal Code, Chapter 26, Utilities by adding and adopting a utility improvement fee and providing for repeal, providing for severability, and providing for codification. You might as well just stay up there.
I get my mileage in this evening.
There you go.
This particular agenda item is to confirm the action that was just taken by the City Commission in regard to the code update for the utility improvement fee.
All righty. Anybody got questions? Anyone got a motion?
Move to approve item 5.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second. All right, go ahead.
Beat me.
Okay.
Okay, Travis, got that. All right, so Daniel and Travis. All righty, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 5. We'll call the question. Motion passes 7-0. Item 6, confirm action taken by City Commission on agenda item number 24 with respect to a resolution updating the city fee schedule by setting the monthly rate of the utility improvement fee pursuant to Chapter 26, Article 2, Section 26 through 30 of the City Code, and providing for readoption of the city fee schedule in whole. And there you are again.
I am. Again, this is to confirm action that was just taken by the City Commission in regard to the update of the city fee schedule related to the gradual increase of, gradual implementation of a utility fee.
Okey-doke. Anybody got questions? How about a motion?
A motion to approve.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll second.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of item 6. We'll call the question. Passes 7-0. Item 7, consider bids, wastewater system improvements, and I think Brad is coming up, or maybe Joe is.
I'm gonna pinch hit this one,
There you
Mayor.
go.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, as you are aware, just as brief history, this bid opening occurred on August the 1st. There was a subsequent meeting last Monday, August the 8th, to entertain the financing piece that was just considered by this board. At that time, that measure failed, which meant that there was not going to be sufficient funding to go forward with an award of a contract on the wastewater treatment project. At that time, because of that vote of the commission, staff ceased work on their due diligence in certifying those bids, which is a normal duty and process that we undertake with each bid opening prior to a recommendation of award to this body. As a result of tonight's vote, staff will need to re-engage that process, but is not ready to make a recommendation with regard to an award tonight. That does bring into play some timeframes that are of importance, and so I want to make sure that the commission understands what we're dealing with. Oklahoma statutes, Title 61, Section 111, relating to the timing of award of contracts after a bid opening, requires that contract award go out or be awarded within 30 days of bid opening. There is an exception that allows for an extension of that period of award by up to 15 days when, in this case, this board, the city commission, determines that for good cause shown, that extension should be granted. Obviously, given the facts that I've just outlaid with regard to the timing of the financing and the ability of the city to proceed with the project, staff believes that constitutes the necessary factors to meet a good cause finding by this commission, and it is the recommendation of staff that the commission go forward in making such a finding, that good cause exists to extend the award of that contract for up to 15 days pursuant to state statute, and that we defer the award of this particular bid until the September 5th SMA meeting. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yes.
One question, is that meeting on the 6th? 5th is Labor Day.
Apologize, thank you. Meeting on the 6th.
Just Wanna
You
make
guys
sure
would be
we get-
really mad if you had to show up on the fifth.
If we made that. We can't afford overtime in attorney fees.
Any other questions?
So we just need a motion to defer then.
Well, Mr. Mayor, because we do have a specific statutory requirement, this body will need to make the finding that good cause does exist for that 15-day extension, in addition to deferring the item to that September 6th meeting.
So do we need two motions?
It can be made in one motion.
Okay. I'll take a stab at it.
Okay, go for it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that good cause exists for us to defer this item to the September 6th council meeting, or SMA meeting.
And if I may, Commissioner, that, just to clarify, that good cause exists to extend the award to the lowest responsible bidder,
Try again.
Yes.
and therefore defer the award of this contract to the September 6th meeting?
Correct.
Okay.
Want me to say it, or attempt to say it?
If that is what your motion was, then I think we're fine. and
Okay.
We can await a second.
Yes,
Hey, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we have a motion and a second. So we will call that question. Motion passes 7-0. Item 8 is new business.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 9 is adjournment, so we can all go home. Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody's hard work on this. I know this was not an easy thing.